Hi, it's Zoe. Today we're talking about how beliefs shape the kind of community we want to live and lead in. I'm hoping you're going to find this a nice reflective piece. So let's play.
Welcome to the Zoe Routh Leadership Podcast, your source of strategies and insights to make you a better leader. Influence, improve, inspire.
Well, winter has surely hit big time here in Canberra. It has been cold and rainy and miserable and dumping snow up in the hills, which is so exciting because that means ski season is just around the corner. Rob and I went up to our chalet at Guthaga and hauled in supplies for our trips in August that we're looking forward to. And it was just full of the white fluffy stuff, which is so exciting. I always find that weird, snow in Australia. When I first moved here 20 odd years ago, I didn't even know there was snow in Australia. In fact, I knew very little about Australia altogether. It's kind of embarrassing to admit this. I didn't know Canberra was the capital. I didn't know that trees shed their bark. I didn't know that there was 10 of the deadliest snakes in the world here. The list of things I did not know about Australia is pretty long. In any case, I've made up for it, I think, as I'm still learning week by week. A little bit of news. In Chookland, I haven't talked about the chooks for a while, hey? Well, my Blackie Greenleg, she has gotten over her molt and she's laying again. I can't believe it. She's actually pumping out eggs in this freezing cold weather. Good on her, little champion. She's 8 years old and she's still laying. Woohoo! Her sister, Blackie Yellowleg, is in her turn molting, and she's looking scraggly and miserable as a result. And they do get cranky when they shed their feathers, as I would imagine you would too if you had to all of a sudden have a bare butt in this kind of cold weather. Speaking of cold weather, on Thursday this week is the CEO Sleep Out in support of St. Vincent de Paul's. And we are working together to end hopelessness and to give a hand up to those in need. There's only small cracks that separate those with homes and those without. In this week's newsletter, I talk about in rock climbing, how in rock climbing we're taught to keep 3 points of contact on a rock. So 2 feet and a hand, or 2 hands and a foot. And that gives us the most stability. If you've got 2 points of contact, it's unstable. If you have 1 point of contact, it's precarious. And our social safety net is kind of like that too. We need at least 3 points of contact. And it might be really good, solid friendship circle, good family relationships, a job, somewhere to sleep. If we lose one of those or 2 of those, then we've lost our 3 points of contact and 1 point of contact left. So if we have a relationship breakup, say, for example, and we lose our job at the same time, it's very likely we could end up homeless because we won't be able to pay our rent or our mortgage, and we've got nowhere to turn to because we've had a relationship breakup. That's how people end up sleeping in their cars or on the street. So there's not that much that separates those who sleep on the streets and those who don't. And if you haven't been used to using the kind of services, you may not know where to go. In any case, Vinny's helps those in need who are in that kind of crisis situation and just need a hand up to get back onto footing on one or 2 of those little points of contact. So if you can, I'd love you to support me. And even just $55 feeds a family for a day. $100 provides emergency accommodation for a family in crisis. Even $10, whatever you can afford, I'd be deeply grateful, and so will Vinny's. You can find the donation page if you just Google CEO Sleep Out and Zoe Routh, you'll find me, and you can donate there. I'll also put a link in the show notes page, which will be at zoerouth.com/podcast/believe, because that's the theme for today. So that's my big announcement. It's going to be cold and pretty uncomfortable, I expect, but that's nothing. I mean, I can go home, have a nice warm shower, and I'll be fine. Other people don't, and they'll be staying out in this rain and this cold weather until who knows. So I'm glad I can do this little bit of sacrifice to help them. Coming up next week, big exciting news. With my mastermind, I'll be in Sydney, and we have Craig Rispin, our futurist, our business futurist, and he's going to be working with my mastermind group for the day, and we'll be looking at the future of communities. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has to share about it. And in the afternoon, the masterminders will be working on how that applies to their own businesses so they can be on the front foot when it comes to changes in community that affect us all. And if you're listening in Brisbane, I'm coming up to Brizzy soon. On the 18th of July, I'm actually hosting a breakfast, and we've titled it The 7 Critical Steps to Future-Proof Your Position, Avoid Becoming a Disposable CEO. So it's really relevant, important content, and you'll get a chance also to hear about the Leader's Edge Let's see if I can try that again. To hear about the Leader's Edge Mastermind. I almost said Leader's Edge mashed potatoes. I'm sure we could have mashed potatoes, but it's the mastermind I'll be talking about. So if you are around and you want to come and join me for breakfast, you can RSVP to Crystal, who's my assistant at hello@innercompass.com.au. She can give you the details, and I'd love to see you there. Other big exciting news, my team is gathering. So my team, it's me, Crystal, and Bianca. We've only met in person once, and that was at our unconference earlier this year. So we're meeting again in person, live, face-to-face, this Friday for a big team planning day. And we're looking at all the big projects for the rest of the year and for 2019 and beyond. So we're stepping it up, and I'm looking forward to sharing the outcomes of that with you. Now, what I'm reading, now this is something a little bit different. I'm reading a bit of, I guess it's a biography. Yeah, it is a biography. It's called The Trauma Cleaner, and my neighbor lent it to me. And it's by Sarah Krasnostein. And it's the story of a woman who runs a business that cleans up after traumatic events, whether that is a murder or a suicide or even chronic hoarders. And the fact that the police don't clean up after this, ambulance don't clean after, they actually hire in people to clean up these rooms and so on when they've had bodily fluids sprayed across them or they're just really difficult to deal with. So it's the story of her business, but what's more interesting than just the business is her personal story. And she has been many things, and those things include a brother, a husband, a father. That's right. She's gone through, the main character has gone through major sexual transformation. She's had a gender reassignment. And this was way back in the early 80s when such a thing was massively taboo. And there was huge odds and discrimination against people. And it's the story of how she lived through her own personal trauma and to find a sense of identity and to retranslate what community means to her. The reason I mention this book is because it got me thinking about belonging, it got me thinking about identity, and it got me thinking about community and how these things are all redefined in different ways. And there's so many of us, human beings, on the fringes who struggle to find belonging, to struggle to know where they fit in, and struggle to be accepted. And I think about our responsibility as leaders within that. And I think if we are more purposeful about who we are and the kind of community and kind of society we want to create, then we will help those on the fringes and those not on the fringes feel more integrated and purposeful and connected to who they are as human beings and how they can contribute to the greater society. So when I think about my own purpose, which is I am obsessed with helping big thinkers with big hearts make a big difference. So I'm interested in those who want to step up and contribute. So that is my purpose, to inspire, to assist, to show big thinkers how they can move on their big agenda and to create a tidal wave of impact. And I guess when I think about that, I think about my theme for this year. And my theme for this year is boundless. How can we become more boundless? What are the things that constrain us? How can we get through them? How can we release barriers and blocks to our leadership and to our contribution? When I think about that, and I think about my purpose, I think I want to play a bigger game. And I've got a birthday coming up. That's right. July 1st. My husband always remembers it because it's the first day of the new financial year. So romantic. It's also Canada Day. That's how I remember it. And so I've always had a public holiday on my birthday. In any case, birthday time always makes me reflective. And end of financial year often makes me reflective too. So as I reflect on that, I want to play a bigger game. And how do I play that? It's by creating community. And through community, one of the things that's most important to me is this sense of belonging. It's a fundamental human need to feel like we belong. It's how we know we're safe. It's how we know that we're connected. It's how we know that we are part of something bigger than individual sack of bone and blood and water. That's our biological makeup. So I want to create a community. I want to create a community of leaders who want to build great cultures at work. So I think creating a sense of belonging community at work is our modern day tribes. And I want to be part of helping leaders to foster that. And I also want to create a community of leaders who want to make a bigger contribution, whether it's through their business, through their industry, or through their community. So that's the kind of community I want to link people to, building great cultures and making a contribution. Because I really believe that good things happen when good-hearted people with like-minded interests come together. In fact, Seth Godin in his book Tribes talks about this. He says, tribes need a purpose to unite people. And I think a purpose where we want to create community and connection and make a contribution and a great place to work is a really powerful thing to unite around. Simon Sinek says, if you've watched any of his TED Talks or his classic one that had so many views, says, people believe what you want to believe, or people will follow you if they believe what you believe, something to that effect. He says you'll attract people who believe what you believe. And he's kind of hypnotic, don't you think, when he talks about that? So in any case, I've asked, well, how do you know what you believe? If we need to pause and really think about the things that are important to us and what we believe in. So I did a little bit of reflection, and I guess there's a couple of filters we can put ourselves through when it comes to examining our beliefs. And the first one is this. What do you believe about yourself? Who are you? What role do you play? What difference can you make? And these are kind of confronting questions if you just kind of pull them out of the blue. If you're listening to this driving in your car or running at the gym or pumping weights or whatever it is that you do and you listen to me wax lyrical. So when I think about this from my point of view, when I think about me and who am I, I'm a teacher. I believe that my life and my stories are an example. And I know because people have told me that people find my life and my stories uplifting, inspiring. And for me, telling my story is a way of helping me make sense of my life experience. I've had some pretty unusual experiences, I suppose, all my wilderness adventure in Canada and here in Australia and around the world. And I've had some pretty difficult experiences as well with just chronic challenge with my health, with IVF, with cancer, and coming through all of that and how that has transformed the way that I see myself and the world. So for me, I'm a teacher and I'm a storyteller. What about you? So the next thing to ask to tease out what you believe is, what do you believe about the world? And when we ask this question, we tease out our worldview. And isn't that funny? Worldview. So when we think about the world, it frames how we then make choices based on that world. So what do you believe about the world? For me, I believe the world is beautiful. I believe it's there to be explored and to be savored and to be cherished. I think about the world and I am just gobsmacked with absolute awe about the amazing planet that we live on and all the creatures and all this activity and all this life that is so interconnected and interwoven and interdependent, and how magnificent things can be. And when you look at the tiniest speck of an ant to the most grandiose tree to the most remarkable landscape, and all of it is just fantastic. Even in the skirmishes of humanity, when we squish each other up against difficult circumstances, there is beauty and joy yet to be found in that. And I just find it a delirious concoction of contradictions and fabulousness. And it is such a remarkable mystery. So that's what I believe about the world. What do you believe about the world? The next thing to reflect on is life. What do you believe about life? Because what you believe about life frames how you make choices. For me, I believe that life is absolutely an adventure. I believe it's here for learning, for fun, for growth. That's what life is to me. It's just a delirious, have I used delirious twice today? Maybe I'm feeling a bit delirious myself. In any case, life is an adventure, and it's there for discovery. Now, some other people would say life is drudgery, or life is a box of chocolates, whatever metaphor works for you. But for me, it's an adventure. Wilderness and big spaces and the sense of freedom that comes with that. Unlike Chris, I have a strong sense of connection to other humans. And reading his story, it's like he enjoyed people, but he also enjoyed being on his own. He kind of came together with people and then had to disappear and disconnect. I'm still not sure what's totally rattled my cage with this story, but this is what I'm coming to know about stories, and that stories matter. People's stories matter. So Chris McCandless's stories matters. The trauma cleaner stories matter. They are like threads of meaning. Stories like, let me just explain this a bit more. They weave threads of meaning into the fabric of our lives. So Chris's story, even though it ended so tragically for such a young guy, has a thread of meaning. It has meaning for me that I haven't yet fully embraced. And the trauma cleaner story has meaning for me too. And it helps me see myself and see the world and see my sense of purpose more clearly. So I guess my request for you is to have a think about, what do you believe about yourself, the world, life, and humanity? And what story of yours do you want to tell? And what story could you create moving forward as a leader who wants to make a contribution? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know that you listen to this and it hits home sometimes. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. So reach out to me, Zoe@innercompass.com. I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, live well, lead well.